Oh, there's Jim. Just say hi to Jim before we Hi Jim. Can't see you there, but I'm just going to start. I've put everyone on mute and I'm just going to start. Hi Jim. I can see you now. Okay, let's start. Bring the heels together. Lifting of sternum. Dropping the chin. And make sure that when you drop the chin, you don't create any constriction in the throat, or what we're really doing is just dropping the head very slightly on that rotation axis to elongate the back of the neck and to raise up the crown of the head. We want to have a feeling of lifting up the crown of the head so that everything else is allowed to fall away. And the analogy I'm likening that to is a piece of string in water that we just pick up and the water drips off down the string. We want two things going on at the same time. We want the feeling of plucking up, which comes from plucking up is enough actually, just a feeling of plucking up. And then at the same time, a feeling of letting go. So what can drop, drops, leaving something of an alignment. In the classics, they talk about, or it's mentioned in some of the writings, hanging on a hook, something, a body or a coat hanging on a hook. And like the weight of the coat dropping down or the weight of the body dropping down away from. And that feeling you want to try and find in your body. So you're not just aware of the heaviness down, and you're not just aware of the movement upwards, but keeping both in balance. But when we go into an exercise here, when we drop here, we're not just focusing on what's dropping, we're focusing on falling away from the crown of the head. So there's, in my awareness, there's the crown of the head, which stays in place, and then there's the melting away as I sink and turn, which is different from just sinking. When I just sink, everything gets quite heavy and dense, and the dropping of the body's weight compounds me onto the ground. And I want to try and stay connected but light in the foot. So this falling away gives me the connection, but also maintains the aliveness upwards. And here again, make sure that when you move, it's not just all one direction. It's not unidirectional to the foot. It's falling away from the alignment. We'll just do the first loosening exercise. Remember I said last week, the Wikijin says that Master Huang used to get him to practice with this isn't a matchbox, but he used to say, put a matchbox on your head top. So that when you practice, you feel or you remind yourself of the head top. It's very easy to become focused on the body and what the body does, and the sinking of the body becomes too dominant. So we want to fall away from something, not just everything falling. This idea of aliveness in the head top. If you can feel your lower back releasing, you can feel the weight of your center of gravity dropping away from your head top, you may start to feel a light stretch through your spine. That's like a piece of string with a weight on it. The weight drops, that piece of string just lightly stretches. You may start to feel that sort of sensation through your spine, which is a good sensation for Taiji. So softening the muscles and the tissues of the leg enables the center of gravity to draw downwards, which enables the lower back to open, which enables the sensation of falling away from the crown of the head. Starting in the leg, softening. Starting in the leg, softening. Lower back, falling away from the crown of the head. So it's as if there's a river flowing through the body. But the body isn't moving with it. It's like the body is like the banks of a river, and the river is allowed to pass through the banks without the banks moving. So the head top is like the bank of a river, and the river flows through the body. And that flowing process starts the moment you send the intention to release. The moment you send an intention into the body starts changing. So a genuine intention, how do we know the difference, what an intention is? So the intention, yi, is the symbol or the Chinese for intention, mind intention. Mind intention is when you have a thought to do something, and that thought makes the event happen. So for example, I want to go and make a cup of tea. I have the thought of doing that. My body starts to move towards the kettle. That intention to make the tea is genuine because it sets my actions in process. The thought of having a holiday in Brazil, until I start to book a ticket, is just a thought. It's not an intention. It might be a subtle intention that's going to lead towards me booking a ticket, but the actual mind intention that makes me do something is a genuine, clear intention. In Tai Chi, we need the distinction between an intention that makes the body change and do something, and the idea of doing something. So an idea stays in the head and doesn't make the body move towards changing. An intention, as soon as you have an intention, the body changes. So we send a mind intention to the muscle groups to soften. The mind intention is to soften. We monitor it with the awareness of the sensations of the body actually changing. So intention into the body, body changes. Feel it. Intention to the muscles in the leg to soften. The body actually starts to soften, falls away, and you can feel it. Just to explain on another level as well. When we have an intention to move, we don't necessarily feel the changes because movement is different from muscle changes. The intention to move doesn't necessarily mean we monitor the changes of the muscles. We probably monitor the movement of the body, which is different from feeling the sensation of change in the muscles. So the intention, the mind intention, must be deep enough to activate the change in the muscles. This is really important separation between movement and what causes the movement. The cause of movement is the release or the contraction of muscles. The result is the movement. So we don't have an intention to move. We have an intention to release or contract, which causes movement. Releasing and contraction we can feel. Movement, we just feel the exterior body from position 1 to position B. We don't really feel how we got there. We just feel that we're moving. So our intention must be deep enough, which means it's in the body. So your intention starts off feeling the body. Your awareness starts off when you feel the body and you send an intention, it will be more closely into the body. If you're not aware of your body and you're not feeling your body and you have an idea to move the body, it won't quite be connected to the body. So we need our mind to be really fully in the body. And then when we send an idea to change the muscles, we can monitor much, much more carefully. So closing down the thinking, letting the thoughts subside a little bit, becoming a little bit more quiet in ourselves, feeling the body sensations, organizing from the inside is the place where we can start to see if our intention to move is internal. Our intention is changing the muscles. It's very easy to have an intention to move across and turn. And for beginners, we keep it simple. We say move across and turn, keep the weight in the center of the foot. And this is enough to monitor the movement. Turn smoothly, stay upright, keep the weight in the center of the foot. But this doesn't really get to the muscle changes we need to make. So intermediate Tai Chi, we melt the muscles and let the melting muscles generate the movement. So it's like we melt the sand so the water can flow. We melt the sand, we melt the dam so that the water can flow. We take away the dam so the water, the movement can take place. We melt the muscles so the movement can take place itself. When we melt the muscles smoothly, the movement can be smooth. One of the things we're making sure is that as we melt the muscles, we soften the muscles, we enable the hip joint to open. The hip joint opens. And this keeps the knee in the same location. The knee can bend, but it mustn't move inwards or outwards. Same with the thigh mustn't roll with the hips. With the turning of the hips, the thigh mustn't roll. We must learn how to soften the muscles of the leg, let the weight drop, away from the crown of the head, and the changes of the muscles enable the hip joint to open. So when I soften and release, it isn't the leg collapsing, and it isn't the leg moving with the hips. Everything is moving in a way that generates stability straight into the foot. So you fall away from the crown of the head. As soon as you notice your knee coming in, or as soon as you notice your foot rolling onto the inside edge, you stop the movement. And you say, what can I release? What can I soften that enables the hip to open and the weight to stay in the center of the foot, falling away from the crown of the head? Rather than just pushing through and ending up at the end of the posture, disconnected or tight or held, notice that moment where the knee wants to move or the foot wants to tighten or the ankle gets squashed. So what can I release? What can I release? What can I let go of that enables me to stabilize and maintain my connection? So often I'll be doing the form, and I might come to a place, anywhere in the form, and I'll feel, oh, that feels like I've moved too far. I've tightened the body in my movement. And I'll go back a notch. I'll go back to a place where I feel comfortable, and I'll say, how can I get that movement to take place through releasing? And I'll notice if I'm releasing too much and getting squashed onto the ground, or if I can release and enable the movement to stay stable and soft, or if I've just moved too far and tightened up the body. Because stability comes from one of two ways. You can either release the body fully and the weight of the body stacks up on top of itself and presses it onto the ground for stability, which is the Taiji way, or you bind and tighten the body with tight muscles and it holds you in place, stabilizes you, which isn't the Taiji way at all. We want to try and find out where we're holding on using the tension method for stability and where we're releasing for the tension method for stability. Our releasing mustn't lead to collapsing, and it mustn't lead to be too heavy. It must be falling away from the crown of the head for stability, not compressing for stability. So when we go through the exercises or the forms, the questions we need to ask are, am I aware of how I'm changing my muscles? Is my intention to change my muscles causing my muscles to change, or am I still just doing the movement? Am I aiming for the end of the posture, or am I feeling how I'm letting go, which allows me to move into the posture? What you'll probably find is that your postures change a little bit. Instead of moving as far as you thought you could go, you might find you move slightly less. But as a result, remain much more stable. And you may find you've released more and you can turn further than you thought you could and still stay nice and connected and grounded. But it comes from falling away from the crown of the head, not moving into a posture. So let's go through the form. Locking up the sternum, lightly dropping the chin, making sure the shoulders are released. The chest feels open from the inside, like a hollow ball that's open, so the shoulders can drop. Chest feels open, back feels open. Shoulders feel wide. More space in the body, more space in each joint. Mind comes to a place where it's quietly listening to the body, the sensations in the body. The thoughts slowly subside as you settle more into the sensations in the body. Start with an intention to begin the form and bend the knees, release them. The result is the knees bend, stabilizing into the right, falling away from the crown of the head. Freeze the left. The intention is to soften onto the left leg, soften the muscles of the left leg, to receive the weight of the body. Keep releasing, keep allowing the hip joint to open, keep allowing the thigh and the knee to stabilize, turning to the maximum you can turn while maintaining your stability. Turn back, the hip folds, and release. Connect. Make sure you're fully released from the crown of the head. Use the legs. Fall away from the crown of the head. The base changes on the inside, the muscles change and release. The lower back follows. The shoulder blades, shoulders, elbows, wrists. Everything finishing together. Turn. Draw back by melting to the left. Don't think about moving onto the left foot. Think about releasing the muscles so there's support for the body to fall onto the left leg. Turn. Release the holding in the right leg so the center of gravity can fall away from the crown of the head into the 50-50 position, holding the ball. Small rebound from the back foot to the wrists. Find the front foot and turn. Finding the front foot means releasing to the front foot. Look for the... I'll talk more about that in a minute. So, step. Gliding. Square. When you're 50-50, find the releasing away from the crown of the head that enables you to turn and settle. Rebound. When you turn to the corner, the opening of the hip is very much like the first loosening exercise. You have to keep the left knee and the left foot stable on the ground and turn in a way that opens up the hip joint, opens up the back hip, enabling you to be stable enough to step. We want to make sure that when we sink onto the left leg here, we're not in a position where we have to bind in order to move the leg. Sink, continue to release away from the crown of the head, because that movement of the leg, that movement of the right leg, creates a change in force in the body. The movement of the leg creates a change in force and a change in stability. And your body needs to be able to adjust to that change. So even though this is a small movement of your leg, you don't want to tighten your left leg in order to do it. You don't want stability to arise because you tighten the muscles in this leg to give you something to push against. You want to compensate for the change in force by a fluid like a boat on water. So your hips and the way they rest into your left leg want to be buoyant and fluid, so that any changes with the lift of the leg or the movement of the leg to take a step, the bowl of the pelvis is fluidly changing to every single nuance of shift of weight to the side. Let's practice that one move. From ward off left, turning to the corner. Now, instead of feeling your right foot and having an intention to move your right leg, have an intention to keep releasing away from the crown of the head into the stable leg. Focus on the stability and the releasing into the stable leg, not the step, not stepping. If you focus on stepping, it will take your mind away from the sensations in the leg, and you won't be able to make the changes you need to make. Focus on the sensations of releasing in your left leg. Make sure you're falling into it. You're stabilizing onto your left leg while you step. Then sink in. Posture. Try that a few times, please. Ward off left. Sometimes it's easier to do it fast, so it's a little bit more dynamic. Sometimes you want to do it slowly. Sometimes it'll change where you put your foot down. Sometimes it'll change how much you pick your foot off the ground. So your right leg hardly has to come off the ground at all. In fact, you can step in such a way that your toes roll onto your heel. And this pressure of your foot on the ground stays the same throughout. So rather than picking your foot up and putting it down, you just roll it forwards. So your foot never leaves the ground. So your right foot, when you step, never leaves the ground. It just slides outwards. And that's because you're lowering yourself away from the crown of the head to step. Rather than thinking about this lifting the weight of the leg will create tension in the body. Letting the weight of both legs go, so it more slides out, enables the base to stay more released. Then we're in ward upright. Roll back. When you move backwards, the movement comes because there's a falling away or a melting of the muscles that enables the movement to take place. So don't think of the movement to the back foot. It's what we teach beginners. You move the hips on parallel to the ground, straight back until you're over the foot. That's very external. Think more internally, how you soften and let the weight fall away from the crown of the head towards the back foot, and then how the movement of the body is drawn along that line. maintaining your stability the whole time you move. So from the beginning right through, you're very stable in the left leg. You don't move and then find your stability. You don't move your crown over the foot and then relax. You're melting the whole time. Your intention is to let go through the body and draw your body weight towards the foot. As soon as you find it, you can turn open and turn back. When you're ready to come forwards, you soften the front leg. Let your weight be drawn away from the crown of the head into both feet. Again, draw back, soften the body. If you feel a curve or a tightness in the lower back, let it go. Let the leg soften to enable the lower back to open. For the lower back to open, don't push, don't tuck the tail, soften the thigh, soften the leg. Draw back. Move in, soften both legs, fall into the posture, as if the hands are just resting. You want to make sure that in the posture of push, chest is open, the shoulders are wide. The hands are at 90 degrees. Not soft, not hard. There's no tension in the wrist. There's no slackness in the wrist. It's alive. There's an aliveness through the structure of the body to the fingertips. The hands very soft, as if they're resting, but they're not hard and they're not collapsed. It's as if they're collapsed. They're soft like they're collapsed, but there's just a little bit of aliveness in them. It's like, you know, those party, you blow into them and they uncurl and make a noise. It's like you're blowing through your arm to your fingertips. So your life force reaches your fingertips, isn't collapsed and stops at the wrist, isn't hard pushing outwards. It's just reaches the fingertips and just slightly beyond. Push is at the height of the throat, fingertips at the height of the throat, one fist apart, one span from the body to the elbows. What puts the hands in place? Shoulders. Shoulders releasing. Down, open. Drops the elbows. The hands follow. And you get this push position. Pushing into a wall. When you find the right condition in your body, any increase of pressure into the fingertips into the wall, you'll feel it in the ground. You'll feel all the force go through your whole body into your feet. So even putting 2 or 3 ounces of pressure into your fingertips, if your body's connected, you'll feel yourself pressed onto the ground. You'll feel the equivalent force of 3 or 4 ounces of pressure going outwards from your fingertips in the feet. If your body's locked and held, you'll feel 3 or 4 ounces of pressure in your fingertips push you backwards. Change your alignment, push you backwards. If you're fully released from your head top down and settled and connected and buoyant, when you put pressure in the fingers, you'll feel it in the feet. Conversely, when you put pressure in the foot, you'll feel it in the fingertips because that body is a fluid pressurized system. So a small push in the foot, very small push in the foot, you'll feel it immediately in the fingertips. Okay, if you have to play with it, you have to find your best posture, release your most, let your body weight be suspended and settled, let your chest be open, let your elbows be sunk, connected, and then a very small pressure in your foot to push your fingers into the wall. But be really clear that you're not adding anything yourself. You're not adding a thought of doing something with your arm, because this will create a tension in your hands. The thought is that your hands stay connected, and the only thing that happens is your back knee expands. Your back knee expands, opens up ever so slightly. So your back knee, from being slightly folded, slightly opens. This creates a tiny force through to your fingertips. If you can get the sense of this movement, especially Kath and Christine, if you're working together and you're not drinking tea and chatting, no, I'm jokes aside, sorry. If you're doing some push hands together, one of you can take a posture like this. Don't try and stand, Paul describes it like a bottle. So if you're pushed, you're going to go like you're one block. You're not going to try and get rooted in and not let the partner push you. Just stand as if someone's going to push into you and you feel their force, you'll let yourself go like a big bottle would fall, like a bottle would topple. You stand like that. The partner puts their hands here and here in push position. Or you can put your hands crossed and they'll put their hands here and here in push position. And your partner who's pushing tries to do this push that comes up from the ground. The temptation, of course, is going to be that you try and use your hands. We want to try and bring the mind into a place where it's feeling the body, not looking for the result, which hopefully is what we do in our Tai Chi anyway. So you put yourself in the best posture, not too much on the ground, falling away from the crown of the head. You let your body buoyantly connect, softening into the hip joints. And then you bring a very small opening of the back knee to the fingertips. Then you let that press into your partner. You let that press into your partner. And the fingertips will, because they're not a wall, because they're not static like a wall, that force that comes out of your fingertips should just move them slightly. And you're feeling it come from the ground through to your fingertips. So it's quite a good practice to do with the partner, because it's the beginning of the genuine force that you can use to issue somebody. And in the form, we want to find that when we gather our force onto the ground, we just bring it back through by opening the back knee. And we sit back away from the fingertips and we turn. In single whip, we're holding the ball here. The hands are on the center line of the body. And this posture is very, very much like the beginning of the form while we're holding the ball, but the only difference is that we're holding a hook here. All the fingers touching the thumb very lightly. The first movement here, one of the movements, the left hand lifts to the wrist of the right hand. The left fingers come up to the wrist of the right hand. The left hand stays on the center line of the body. It comes up around a ball. So here, it's at the bottom of the ball. This is the top of the ball, and it's coming up around the ball to the wrist. Can you see how this one's coming up around a ball here? This hand is in exactly the right position now for the end of the move, where you sink and soften, and the hand turns over into a single whip. So the left hand lifts and sinks. The left hand lifts and sinks. It's doing very little. So you sit away from the hands and turn back here, holding the hook. You turn the body and lift the left hand. Draw the toes of the left in, step out with the left foot. Move, the left hand stays in the center of the body. Square, sink, and the left hand turns over. Small increase of pressure, the back knee opens, force rises through to both back of the wrist and the left hand. Do that one more time, facing this way. You sit away from the hands are in this A-shaped position. As you sit away, they level off and parallel. They were pointing inwards and upwards. As you sit away, if you look at the curtain behind me, the fingers stay where they are, but they level off. And at the same time as leveling off, they become parallel. It's not that you sit away from the fingers and the fingertips stay in the same place. The fingertips drop. The hands go from 45 degrees up to level with the ground, because when we turn round, they're level. When we turn round, the hands are level to the ground. And then when we turn back, this hand's in the right position here. So it started off at the height of the throat. It levels off to the height of the elbow, and that pretty much is the height of the sternum. Here, holding the ball. And then you turn. As you turn, the left hand lifts, staying in line with the center of the body. Drawing the toes of the left, step out, leave the hook exactly where it is, sit away from it. Sink and turn, left hand turns over. Have a go at that move yourself from the push, please. Start the move, falling away from the crown of the head. Settling into the base, get your mind really comfy with the feeling of sensation of your thighs melting, the lower back melting, and the hips seating. Lifting up the sternum, lifting up the crown of the head. Then when you feel the body in place, soften the chest to drop the shoulders, opening out the elbows and the hands, so the whole body feels connected. The hands released, as if they're resting on something, feels similar to the way the feet are released onto the ground. There's a similarity of sensation in the palm, of it being released onto something. Although it's the air, it feels like it's being released. The feet feel like they're softening and being released onto the ground. And although there's more pressure in them, the feeling of release is the same. So the hands feel connected, the feet feel connected. Sit back and turn. Sitting back is drawing back and down to create the movement. The hands open up, turn. Keep turning and move to the right foot, pivoting on the ball of the left as the weight leaves the left. Turn back, holding the ball. Turn and lift the left fingers to the wrist. Draw in the left toes. Step out, move away from the hook. Square to 9 o'clock. Sink and the left hand turns over. This is where the whole body connects. And small increase or opening of the back knee. Force comes back through to the hands. To get that force back through to the hands, it's exactly like we were doing against the wall. The body needs to be connected. If the body isn't connected, if the body's held up and you try to push off with a foot, you'll push the body. If the body's sunk and buoyant, small foot from the back foot comes through to the hands, the small issuing force. Have to go a few times. And if there are any observations or thoughts or questions, please just let me know. I'm just going to have a look at you doing it too. Gives me a chance to shut up for a bit as well. Just a couple of little things, right? Try and connect that final turning over of your left hand with the melting and sinking of the whole body, right? So at the beginning of the form, the movement at the beginning of the form, where the hands drop because the body's sinking down, the shoulders, chest follow, and the hands follow. All this movement we understand quite well. Try and get the same thing happening here. When you open up to here, we've got a sinking and settling down. And the hand isn't going to go all the way down, but this movement wants to come from the shoulder and elbow dropping. And it's like it kind of pulls your hand out because this gets heavy and this drops and this sinks with the body sinking away from the crown of the head. It's like this movement isn't done with the hand. This turning over of the hand at the end isn't a movement in the hand. It's done because the whole body is settling. At the end, one movement right through to the fingertips. Have a go. Kath, when you do that move, lift your left hand. This one underneath. Just lift it a little bit higher. So when it's high, it's got somewhere to go. Right. So when this lifts up, when this one bottom one lifts up, it's got somewhere to fall into. Well, if you lift it to here, you've got to move it into position more. So it's like you lift the arms in order to drop them into something. You lift the hand here in order that it can flow into the next posture. Christine, as soon as you lift this hand to here, this hook stays in exactly the same spot over the floor, wherever it is. So when you turn, you lift the hand to here. As soon as your left hand is in this position, your right hand doesn't move. You move away from it. It stays exactly where it is, and you move away from it. And that's where it ends up in single whip. There's no sense of your hand, your hook hand moving once you've. So your shoulder joint has to open to allow the hand to stay where it is, yeah. The shoulder joint has to change and open as you move away from it to keep the hook in the same spot. Yeah, that's good, Jim. That's good hook. Okay, good. Any observations doing that? Anything you want to ask or share about for the last few minutes of the class? Yeah,
Hi. The most awkward bit there for me is transferring the weight onto the right knee from the left foot, left leg. You know, the knee seems a little bit. I've got a bit of a dodgy knee there. You know, when you coming round,
yeah,
and now falling into that right leg rather.
yeah.
It just feels a little bit. I've got to be very careful anyway.
So what can we say? Think of it just like walking. Don't worry or try and get the turning happening. Don't try and get the movement happening. Just get the weight going to the left, the weight going to the right. So just think about the play of weight between the feet and try and get the weight moving smoothly rather than the movement being smooth. So the shift of transfer of weight, first as you turn onto the left foot, and then as you move to the right foot. And let the movement come after the shift of, or let the movement follow the shift of weight. I don't know if that helps in any way. So you've got some stability taking place, because what happens is we try and turn the waist before we're stable. And you need to find the stability first in order to accommodate the spiraling shift of weight.
Yeah.
Play with the way the weight shifts between the feet and let the turning follow that rather than lead with the turning. and play with it and explore, because the main thing is to try and find this kind of stability in your base. And you may find that it, because of your dodgy knee, that limits the amount of turning you've got, right? Because if you turn too far, then you have to start tightening for stability or protecting that knee. You want the movement of the form to change and be less. You want the movement of the form to accommodate to your body, not to be what's prescribed as the movement of the form.
Right, yeah. I get you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what
you always want your form to become particular to your own body, not to try and fit into a mold of what the classics tell you to do, because the classics are just a direction to get you into a ballpark, right? And if your body doesn't like it, if it's had an injury, if your body doesn't want to move in a certain way, we certainly don't want to push it into that place. Yeah, which is, you see all those Chen people kind of doing those very low snake creeps down, and you think, it's like pushing yourself into a gymnastic position rather than really feeling how the body can change and what it wants to do. And of course, we can, with tension, we can do all sorts of movements, but with looseness, the body knows where it can stay stable and be loose. And you want to stay within those boundaries of not getting to a place where it tightens up to be stable. Doesn't do our practice any favors, because we're just practicing being tight.
Yeah, I think that's what I've been doing. I've been tightening up to get around.
Yeah, don't tighten up. Get round less.
Yeah.
If you have to take an adjustment step to come back to 9 o'clock, it doesn't matter, because it's not about being 100% accurate with the form. It's about listening to ourselves and being with our own body changes and our own body movements. Becomes far higher up the agenda than getting the form 100% accurate. Yeah, it's like, beyond 50, beyond 60, body doesn't do what it used to do.
Yeah.
You're saying about knowing your body, and sinking on my right and sinking on my left are two different things entirely.
Yeah.
The way my body responds to it's like two different halves work differently,
Yeah.
So I appreciate the bit about doing the form according to your own physiology, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, if if one side of the body is different to the other, in a way it doesn't matter why.
No.
It doesn't really matter why. Some people can be shorter on one side, some people can have injuries on one side, some people are just better on one side or more understanding on one side than the other, and all those things don't matter. But it is possible to learn a little bit from the better side.
Yeah.
Try and understand more from the movement on the better side, and the other side can learn from that. But it kind of tries to balance it out a little bit more. But it comes with experience, just even knowing that we're different on different sides of the body as well, You're feeling into it, it's a good thing. That's why I say there's no wrong in Tai Chi. There can't be a wrong. But we're just getting more and more aware of how we move and what we do. And being able to make changes as we go is the clue, the key, really. So I'm going to leave you with that for this week, something to play with, and we'll slowly work our way through the form and other moves. If there are moves you want to look at, if there are particular moves you want to look at, do let me know, and then we'll kind of work on those things as well. So you go through the form, you go, what the hell's going on in this move then? We can, we'll try and unpick it. Right, have a good week.
Right, good, thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.
Thank you.